I heard about a couple of planes landing in Iran, and a lot of people were saying that these were members of Hash the Shabi or other foreign groups, that the mercenaries that the Islamic Republic is bringing from outside of Iran to Iran via
Okay.
planes to start killing Iranian people. That was a couple days ago. I don't know where are these planes coming from. They're coming from China, or they're just Chinese planes?
I have only seen Chinese military cargo aircraft. That's all I've seen.
Where did they come from?
I haven't seen that.
So are they Chinese and owned by the Islamic Republic, for example, or are they Chinese owned by China? Because the Islamic Republic does have Chinese, military equipment. So who owns it?
Yeah,
So I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment. But I do know there's a lot of things happening, and it's hard to it's hard to figure out what's happening. I just but that's the only thing I've heard about, that some of these people. Also, by the way, a lot of these hash shabby people, which by the way in English they are called the Popular Mobilization Front, which is a Shia proxy group, terrorist group in Iraq that the Islamic Republic has built. A lot of them have already been inside Iran. So I don't know if they need to move them from Iraq to Iran, because they came as university students in large numbers, so they already were there in Iran. So that's another thing that I don't know.
sure.
Yeah.
And last little quick bit. Did you remember to message Tall?
Yes, I did. He didn't respond.
Okay. 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 Very good. Thank you.
Can you remind him that I messaged him and he didn't respond?
Yes. Yes.
Does he even want, like, does he really want to talk to me on his channel, like about the show on his channel? Is that like a thing that he really
Absolutely.
wants?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Thank you
Okay.
for setting that up. So, oh, I see. Before you raise your hand, I think Danny raised his hand.
That's what I was going to
Oh,
say.
oh, you.
Danny?
Alright. So you put on your show a few hours ago website to monitor regime mercenaries, and I wanted to ask if there are to prevent abuse. So since the Islamic Republic controls many bots and has supporters, some in Iran, otherwise in Russia, China, or general leftist circles, how do we prevent them from downvoting collaborators and randomly upvoting people that they don't like? And how do we prevent them from uploading fabricated evidence?
Okay. So you're talking. Okay, so for people who don't know, you're talking about the Muzuryab website, right? So for people who don't know what Danny is talking about, there was a website that was made by Iranians inside Iran regarding finding mercenaries of the Islamic Republic and everybody who's helping the Islamic Republic anywhere in the world, to find them, to identify them, to gather evidence regarding their cooperation with the Islamic Republic, and anybody could submit the people there, but then it has to be reviewed, and then everybody could actually provide more information, and it's democratic. People could upvote, downvote based on whose cases are credible and whose cases are not. So Danny is asking, what if the people from the Islamic Republic come in and they participate in the voting? Is that your question? Is that your point? So how do we avoid that? Yeah, okay. So I wouldn't worry about that, because they're so few in number compared to the rest of Iranians, that their voting is not going to have much of an effect. The reason why they have so much effect when it comes to suppressing Iranian people inside Iran is because they shoot into crowds and Iranian people are unarmed. But when it comes to the total numbers, they are such a small minority that you don't have to worry about, like, compared to the vast majority of Iranians who will be participating on our side, they're going to be so insignificant. It's like a drop in an ocean. So their numbers are very, very low. This is why they're shooting people in the streets. They're really terrified. They're so small in number that the only way that they could survive is to use extreme violence, but their numbers are very low. Does that answer your
Uh,
question?
Well, not exactly, because but what I was thinking is that if you live in some city and you saw some guy do some shit in your city, then you're going to upvote him. But you're not going to necessarily upvote people in other cities that you don't know anything about. Whereas if you're for the Islamic Republic, you can just downvote everybody. And then even if you're like 5% of the population, then you can still have a big effect.
I don't
if
think
not
this
everyone
is going
votes.
to be based on who's in your city and who's not in your city. I think this is going to be based on the evidence that is being collected and the information that is being shared and the documents that are online and the videos that have been taken and the pictures have been taken. I think it's going to be a more collective national effort rather than based on local information of
Then,
what you've said.
okay, so that just leaves, what if they start fabricating pictures with AI?
AI pictures are so, like you could easily identify AI images as AI with AI, and I think once you have a group of people fact checking things, the false information will immediately be identified. It's
Oh,
pretty easy. Once
okay.
we have a large group of people fact checking things, these things usually will be called out so fast.
I think
I
pictures
mean,
probably yes, but maybe documents would be harder to check.
but documents have numbers, and there are people, like for example, when I remember when we were trying to verify the documents that showed how they killed Nikon, they immediately found someone within the regime that compared the numbers of the document from something that they have access to within the regime, and they basically verified that the document is genuine. There's so many different ways, there's so many different leaks, and so many people with a good history, with a good record of fact checking and verifying, and with a history of being trusted in so many different places, that these things are really hard to hide.
All right.
Yep.
So I had 2 points. One point I would like to address to what you said about AI and about pictures with AI and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, if you are a critical thinker, I'm a critical thinker. If we sit together and we watch kids with 18 toes from Gaza, we understand that it's probably fake. The left doesn't. If they have a narrative and something to stick with, they're gonna lie through their teeth and they're going to try. That's my about this about completely
But
something separate.
can I just respond to that? But the thing is, we weren't talking about like social media posts regarding like to create a narrative. We were talking about like this. We're mostly talking about this website and a fact checking initiative, which is separate from like what we put on social media as into make a narrative or
Kind
propaganda.
of something completely separate. I think that it's okay to talk about some sort of a temporary win for His Royal Highness King Reza. I mean, and his people, because the way I kind of see it, if you go on the media, if you go on TV and you do two things that maybe they're separate, but let's take them together because it was approximately at the same time. You do two things. Number one, you tell the people to sit down tight, the help is on the way, and you did good, which is kind of what he said. And the other thing that he said is, listen, you little turban kisser, little shit, we're going to get you and we're going to get all your friends. And there's no place on Mars you could hide. So these two messages together, I think it's kind of a temporary win for the people. Now, number one, it's a pat on the back. Number two, go sit at home. The casualties are high. Help is coming. And I think it's kind of a temporary win for now.
Well, can I add something to that? So a lot of people, so there might be some insistence on trying to say that the Iranian people are still in the streets. The Iranian people have made the wise decision to go home right now. But a lot of people are trying to suggest that, oh, okay, so it's over. But everything that I'm getting from every single contact that I have from Iran is that everybody agrees that they're ready for the next wave. Nobody that I talk to gives a crap about dying. What they witnessed has completely shifted their mindset. Everybody in Iran has witnessed hell, and now their mindset is on a different, they're living in a different world than us. Their value system has completely changed, and everybody wants revenge. Everybody thinks that the price that they have paid is too much for this revolution not to be successful. So many people don't care about dying, they just want to make sure that they continue to fight. This temporary pause, based on my understanding of what is coming from Iran, is just regrouping, recovery time, and reassessing the situation and waiting. Everybody is waiting to go back. this is not retreat. This is not the end of the revolution. Every time somebody gets their voice out, they want to. There's two messages that is coming out. First, that we are all under the command of Princess of Pahlavi. Everybody should know that. There's so much unity over this now, more than ever. Two, we are going to go out, and the next wave is going to be even stronger. We're just evaluating how, when, and what is the spark that is going to get us out for the next wave. And they want everybody outside to know.
Another point that I had is you spoke about an estimated chaos that is currently ongoing in the IRGC. I saw an Israeli reporter, I don't remember his name, but he did a piece today that spoke about the fact that they're pretty much, you said that the Iranian people are not afraid of dying. They are very afraid of dying, and they're pointing fingers at each other and executing each other based on rumors.
You see, is afraid of dying? That's what you mean?
Huh?
You're saying the IRGC members are afraid of dying?
Oh yes, they're pointing fingers at each other and blaming each other as being
Yep.
conspirators and stuff like that, and they're basically burning each other like matches
Yes.
because they're not like matches. I don't want to be too optimistic, but like they're not trusting at each other at all, and they are pretty much they have a pretty strong and severe headache, and they earned it. So there's that, and there's my last point is I think that if we are putting our little fight online and stuff like that, I think that we should stop call it a protest. It is not a protest, it is a full-on revolt.
Revolt, yes. That's a good point.
And now we have Babak.
Can I
Guys,
be heard for
but
just like 1 second? Sorry. Is that okay?
Why don't I just add you to the list and I'll tell you when is your turn, because you know how to raise your hand. Did we went over
Actually,
this?
no, I don't, sir. If
Okay,
you can
so
tell me, like, real
yeah,
quick,
sure.
how to do it.
Do you see the little smiley button on the bottom? If you click the little smiley button, it opens a few options to pick from. One of them is this little hand. When you do that, I just put you on the list. Okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll figure it out later. Thank you.
I'll just
thank
put
you.
it
And
right now.
no, you're on the list already. But guys, also please note that everybody who's talking, this is being recorded and it's going to be released on social media. Okay, so
That's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Babak.
It's just to Danny about the AI. I haven't tried it with AI yet, but I work with Photoshop and other Adobe programs. That's a really good way to see what's fake and what's not. You put some filters, different filters that you use
all right.
Photoshop to
Yeah,
make.
Baba, if just by saying that there's ways to identify it, that's good enough. We don't have to go through learning Photoshop. Okay, but go on.
It's just
Oh, that was your point. That there are ways to figure this out. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So as a Babak, as an expert, is saying there are easy ways to figure out what's AI and what's not AI. Okay. Thank you.
You know, you can see what's in front, what's back. You can see what's thermal, what's warm, what's. AI doesn't do that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Babak. Harris.
Well, yeah, I actually wanted to just kind of make the same point regarding the AI pictures and whatnot. I think what's going to happen in the near future is that there's going to be a sense, because the pictures are becoming more and more realistic, right? Over time, I think there's going to be a bit of a fallback mechanism towards the already true, tried and trusted news outlets to get more verified information. Like right now, we're going on X, we're going on social media and all these other places, right? So I think because with the advent of AI and so much realism, there's going to be a bit of a fallback back to the old traditional news outlets for verification if something is real or not. That was just my take.
Okay. So let's make this a final point about AI, so that we could go back to the news. But thank you.
Shai.
All right, a few more points and a few questions. My first point is I thought today that what's going on in Iran is similar to 1948 in Israel, and we had weapons smuggled in back then. That's my first point, and I was wondering if that's something that we want to do, but it's probably it's best to wait for the response from the Americans and Israel, and then if that's needed. But that's actually a question as well. The other point I want to make is once Iran is free, the business opportunities and the alliance between Israel and Iran, but also the connections and the friendships that we're going to make, and we're making them right now already, are incredible. It's maybe as strong or stronger an alliance potentially than Israel and the US, but it's also a trifecta: US, Israel, and Iran. So that's the other point I wanted to make. And a third question, this is something that Eliyahu Yossian said, that there are these Iranians who are neutral and that the IRGC doesn't touch them as they shoot at the protesters. Is that true? And does that affect is that affecting the revolution in any way? They're either neutral or I guess they're on the side of the government, so the IRGC is not touching them. And you can see them in videos like
Yeah, I don't know where
standing up
that
against
source
the
of
wall.
information. Whoever is giving you that information, you should stop watching them. There is no neutral anymore. There is no neutral in Iran. Anybody who's talking about neutral Iranians does not know what's going on in Iran right now. Okay,
Yeah,
we
he's
have no middle
Israeli.
ground.
He's no longer Iranian, so
Yeah,
It's
stop
the
watching
second
that guy.
time. It's
Whoever
the
it is.
second time that he gives an opinion that is. I
yeah.
would question some of his motives, but not to say that he's a bad guy. Just if you know him, just read his backstory, and maybe you will understand. Okay?
I just watched the podcast
Look,
with him. That's all, in Hebrew. That's all.
yeah.
Okay.
It's not a good source. Not a good source. With regards to, first of all, I very much agree that once Iran is free after this revolution, the bond between Iran and Israel is going to be very strong, and it's going to be the answer that we needed to a lot of the problems in the Middle East. And this is something that we need to keep working on after the revolution to make this bond stronger and stronger, because I mean it's only natural, right? Given our historic ties and our shared values and our shared enemies, it only makes sense. When it comes to weapons being smuggled in, so up to this point, the fact that there are no weapons smuggled in is only because it was like there was no way for it to happen. Because if this was an option, it would have happened, right? Whether or not it will happen is one question. Whether or not it's a good idea is another, right? So, and
I
a lot
thought
of
it
people, I
might
see a lot.
fracture. The risk it could create Syria, which we don't want.
So let me respond then, right? Because a lot of people mix these two questions with each other. Will it happen? Will it not happen? Or is it a good idea? And to
Right.
me, whether or not it's a good idea is not that relevant, because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, right? So what's the point of saying that is good or not good, right? I know there are a lot of Iranians who think that this is exactly what we need. And some Iranians think that that's a bad idea. They used to think that that was a bad idea because they say like, oh, if we are armed, then the regime will start just shooting into the crowds because now that we're armed. And I don't think that many people are saying that anymore, because the regime is shooting into the crowds regardless of
Anyway,
people being armed or not. So I think if I had to guess, I would say that a lot of Iranians today wish they were armed way more than they used to wish that, right? Given the price that they're paying. And I'm not going to argue with them, right, over this. So I don't know how, because I don't have any expertise over this. So I don't know what, because we're talking about a population of like 90 million people. So it's not like Israel, right? So how are you going to significantly arm this many people? I don't know. I think if they get armed, it's more going to be, maybe it's going to be, I mean, some of them are armed. Iranian Mossad agents in Iran, they're like, these are basically commandos that have carried out many operations in Iran, but on a much smaller scale and very targeted. So we have Iranians who have been trained by Mossad, who are Mossad agents, who know what they're doing, and they have carried out many successful missions in Iran as members of Mossad, right? Remember, when
that's,
every time we talk about,
that's amazing.
oh yeah, every time like we have like, I think by this point we have more Iranian Mossad agents than Israeli Mossad agents, because every time we're talking about Mossad agents in Iran, a lot of people think like, oh, an Israeli undercover. No, every Mossad agent in Iran is an Iranian, and Mossad even, many people from Israel also say that it's actually very easy to recruit from Iran, because many Iranians want to free their country. So there's people lining up trying to be Mossad agents. There was even a Telegram group accepting applications, and they were flooded with applications, right? So, if people get armed one way, might be not because some United States or Israel came and armed them. I mean, that might happen. But another thing that we might see happening in the next couple of days is that the Iranian people will eventually take over where the military, where IRGC or the Basij holds their own weapon. Like if the Iranian people, and I know a lot of Iranian people can't wait to get their hands on some weapons. And I mean, the government has a lot of weapons. That just imagine if a huge portion of the population actually goes into one of these storage areas and they just open the doors, and all of a sudden the people are armed. Imagine what happens after that. One of the chants by the Iranian people in the streets right now, like when people were revolting, is "Vay be ruzi ke masallah shavim." So I think is woe be on woe. Is that how you translate it? Woe be on you, or like or God help you for the day that we are armed. Basically, something like that. So that's what the chant is about. So basically, showing that Iranian people really, really want to be armed. So we'll see, because eventually, I think once we see more defections and once more retreat by the government, the Iranian people are going to go for wherever they hold the weapons. I mean, this is like the French Revolution, right? The French Revolution also started at some point where when the people actually went and actually got access to the weapons, and then that's how it got how the momentum was increased significantly. So I think this could be a repeat of that, right? So yeah. By the way, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Good question.
Jeffrey, what do you got for us?
Add him back to the list. So for that question.
Let him finish his point. I can go after him.
All right, Shai.
Okay, last question.
You want me to ask you the last question?
Yeah.
My last question is, what would you want Israelis to know? Because my experience is that Israelis know nothing. Well, not know nothing, but we don't know what to do other than just watch what's going on. Like, is there anything that, I mean, obviously the IDF will step in and it's up to Bibi, but what can people in Israel do?
I mean, I wouldn't say Israelis know nothing. I think Israelis are more aware than average people around the world. I think our expectation is high, right? Instead of just comparing the number of people who know compared to the people who don't know, what you should be comparing is the percentage of the people who are aware in your country to other countries. And I think if you do that, you will be proud of Israel, right? So don't just, that would be a more fair comparison, right? And I think Israelis are more aware of globally about what's happening than some other countries. And so you say what they should know about. When you're saying what should they know, are you asking
Like, how can we
specifically
help? How can we
what?
help
How
hasten
can
the
you help?
revolution or bring it about? Or
Those who are here in Israel, or Israel is like around.
Israeli
Those in Israel. In Israel, I think that you need to bring your voice online and stuff like that, because we do not have embassies to protest in front of the IRGC. We do not have embassies here. I don't see what we can do much beyond just keeping it on the discussion table and not let it go off.
I think they could protest in front of the U.S. embassy.
Yes.
Protest in front of the U.S. embassy. Okay. Let's do it. Who's organizing?
That's actually a bad move. That's actually a bad move, because that's kind of like, because that's sending a message to the US that you are not moving.
Messages of thank you, Trump. Messages of help Iranians. Positive messages. Positive messages.
Tell Trump and Bibi to go ahead and act. Act,
yes,
Mr.
Yes,
Trump.
but don't
act, Mr.
insult. Don't insult. Don't attack. Don't be rude. Don't act like you're owed something. Be appreciative. Be polite. Hold messages that shows them as heroes. Encouragements rather than insulting. Stuff like that.
Okay, so maybe we should plan it here on the group.
Yes. So Trump, and basically say Trump and Netanyahu, like, treat them like heroes. And also the messages that come out of Israel are actually very encouraging. So many messages come from Israel in support of Iranians. Iranians have noticed that. They see it and they're so grateful. It has given Iranians a lot of energy. So many Israelis are frustrated that the government hasn't acted yet. And that's really heartwarming. that so many Iranian people have noticed. That video from that woman saying, if I have to go in a bunker so that we could help the Iranian people, that video has gone viral on Iranian social media.
I'd also like, though, that there would be energy in Israel to go out and demonstrate for the Iranians. Maybe I can use the opportunity to say this in Hebrew to people that were watching here, Israelis, to gather up, because this is the biggest opportunity for Israel to ensure its security, because this alliance with the Iranian people, once the revolution happens, is going to create so much security, safety, and if you want, I can say this in Hebrew.
Actually, that's a very important point. One other thing you could do is to convince more Israelis how significant this is for Israel. Because again, remember that Iranians are not asking for charity. We're asking Israelis to help us help them. Because without the Islamic Republic, Israel will be guaranteed to be forever, right? It's not going to be a question anymore. The main threat against Israel is gone. So this is so much this is based on mutual interest. This is not about helping us because just care
And
for
that's
the
what I
Iranian
mean
people.
by people in Israel not doing much, just listening and being kind of like passive. So I want to just kind of rally the troops here in Israel. If you don't mind, I say this in Hebrew very short and we continue.
Go ahead. No, go
אז
ahead.
אני רוצה להגיד לכל הישראלים שצופים פה, חברים, הדבר הזה שקורה באיראן זה הזדמנות בשבילנו לוודא שיהיה לנו עוד חבר חזק ושאוהב אותנו, כמו שאנחנו אוהבים אותו, כמו האמריקאים שנמצאים בארצות הברית וגם אוהבים אותנו, אבל כפי שאתם רואים, האמריקאים לא כולם כבר אוהבים אותנו, ומתחיל להיות שם דברים מוזרים, אבל עם האיראנים הולכת להיות לנו חברות של 1000 שנה קדימה, ולא חברות, אנחנו הולכים לשתף איתם פעולה, לעשות איתם צבא, שיתופי פעולה צבאיים, וזה הולך להיות הברית הכי טובה שהולכת לקרות, שאי פעם הייתה לנו. לכן בואו נצא לרחובות ונפגין עם הדגל של האיראנים ונשים לחץ על נתניהו שיפעל יותר חזק, עוד יותר חזק, וניתן לו גם גיבוי, וגם לטראמפ שניתן לו גיבוי שכל הישראלים וכל עם ישראל רוצה שלאיראנים יהיה חופש. זאת הזדמנות חד פעמית וכדאי לנו לא לפספס אותה. What I said, this is one opportunity for us in a lifetime, and it's better that we don't miss it. So let's get out on the streets just like the Kaplan people and give Bibi the backbone to attack and do whatever is necessary to help the Iranian people and put pressure on Bibi and on Trump to do what's necessary. Tell them that we Israelis are behind this revolution 100%, and we say, Yechia Melech Shel Iran, Javid Shah, long live the king. Thank you.
It's also important to mention that the King Reza Shah has an actual legitimate plan of how to handle the security. I listened to it briefly, how to handle the security in the Middle East, and he also wants to root out drug trafficking and this type of criminality because he understands that it's the backbone of the finance of terror organizations. So he's really willing to do a work on the Middle East that nobody did before. That's what Israel needs to know. Jeffrey?
Thanks, guys.
All good points. So I'm going to try and elaborate on or try to tighten the shock group on some of the questions that the previous guy mentioned. Forgive me if I don't pronounce your name right. Regarding what can individuals do? So I'm going to separate this into two kind of buckets, right? Non and lesser kinetic elements of track 2 material support, because that's kind of what you're talking about is sub-state transnational in nature that is either in supportive of national policies that are desirable and or offset deficiencies in those national policies. So what are the non or lesser kinetic elements that you can do? You identify key lines of effort. So maintaining public buy-in, guarding against issue fatigue that underwrites national will. That's one of the things when you put those large crowds out there that actually has a direct impact on that. Countering mullah disinformation, which I know that Armin and Goldie and Tusi do, although it also helps to have all of us, all the elements that comprise the broad pro-Iranian resistance diaspora to be on the same sheet of music with that. Countering, doing open source intelligence assessment. You can follow the Ukrainian Syrian models. I actually included that in a report that I sent to Armin. Please, Armin, forward that to Ozzy. That's fleshing out the Mueller regime's support networks and doing link analysis. This person is tied to this person. They're getting paid by, front organizations for the Mueller regime, etc. Geolocating Mullah activities, whether it's acts of atrocity within Iran and or forced movements in the region or outside, provide that to the anti-Mullah alliance. To that end, you want to have a standardized, modularized team structure and identify those key lines of effort, then underwrite what's the financial, minimum entrance barrier you have to meet to be self-sustaining. I very much appreciate things like tips or treasury inflation protected securities. So let's say you need $50,000 to maintain this team to do this lines of effort indefinitely. So treasury inflation protected securities, you do the investment and you get paid a dividend every 6 months based on a percentage of that initial investment, and the dividends rise or fall with inflation, so you maintain purchase power. On to the kinetic lines of effort. So there's 4 questions you have to ask before then I'll offer what maybe you could do to do that. First is to decide if you should do it, and that's the relative net sum value in providing Iranian resistance with lethal support. I mean, you're actually directly underwriting their ability to push back against the Mullah regime, their thugs, besiege, all the rest of them, and equal the playing field. If you do decide to do that, what to do. So you have to outline the specific elements of Track 2 lethal support that are most beneficial to Iranian resistance when they're compared against the assets and capability of the Mullah regime. How to do. And you can again, look to the broad Ukrainian diaspora, which I played a direct role in for quite some time, centering around, there are certain ways in how you do that, right? Which I'm not going to go into here, although if you want to have that discussion in a environment of lesser attribution, I have more than willing to do so. And finally, is to sustain the ability to do so legally. So there's certain laws you have to follow, rules and regulations to provide lethal material support. And I had to do this with a lot of members of Ukraine's diaspora and immediately following Putin's war of aggression in early 2022, which is certain regs that were created by the United States previous administration to streamline the ability to donate lethal support to Ukrainian Defense Forces. That's for the Bureau of Industry Security, which is an under department of the Department of Commerce. The other one is State Department, DTIC, and ITAR's regulations, which you have to follow. If you violate any of those, and if you're in, let's say, a Western developed nation, from the United States perspective, they all, like all of our allies, have their own respective similar laws. In the United States, each violation, it constitutes $1 million fine and 10 years in prison mandatory, and it's cumulative, not like sequential. So if you want to maintain that effort, those are things you need to do, and there's certain paperwork you can file so you can actually do that. And that's just off the top of my head.
You got any questions to him, Jeffrey Armin?
No. Thank you. That was great. I'm trying to find the report that you sent because by the way, Jeffrey, I'm getting so many emails. So if I miss it, I'm apologize for that.
To that, real quick, to that effort, you might do well to set up a specific email for, there's like a general email you have, and then one that deals with just operationally focused stuff. That's not mean to like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm more special than other people. I'm just saying so that way you can filter out, direct operationally significant emails versus the broader, I don't want to call it noise. I mean, just it's a lot of support. It's just you're only one person. You only have so much bandwidth, right?
Yeah, but I think if I have 2 inboxes, I think it's going to make it even more difficult. But yeah, I'll see what I can do.
All right. Now we have Deborah. Deborah.
Deborah?
All right. Figure it out. So we have another guy. Oh, before we jump to the other guy, in the chat they wrote, because I'm figuring out maybe people are listening and not watching the chat. There is a protest in Hulon again, in the same place, 7:30 on Saturday. So Israelis be there. And we have.
By the way, again, for people who are new here, I saw some new faces. There's a button at the bottom of your screen. If there's a smiley face with a plus sign above it, if you click on that, you could use this reaction and it would add you to the list to speak. And you're going to be recorded and you probably are going to be on social media. So, yeah, Soapbox,
right.
you're already on the list. So,
Yeah. It's actually
Armin.
his turn. So please.
Okay, great. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
yes.
Thank you, Armin. I've been listening to you guys for like I don't know, about 10 days. Totally fascinated. I've understood somewhat about Iranian culture since I was a youngster, when a lot of Iranian refugees from the revolution entered my high school. So I ended up sitting next to them eating lunch and asking them, being curious, who they were, what they were about. I saw it on the news, right? We all knew about, even as a kid, we knew and saw the Shah go down. So I'm very thankful to have you let me into your chat. And I have some background in the sense that I approach things from a philosophy viewpoint, right? So I try to look at things in the greater picture, and look at like structural ideas. And I posted a couple of things on your school chat, and I just want to tell you that I think a lot of Americans really appreciate you guys, what you're doing. Too many people are not paying attention to Iran, and that's typical of Americans. I really think that if the patience perseveres with you guys and just hold tight, right? Wait for those carriers. You'll see a kinetic event. That's my guess. Nobody has a crystal ball, right? And I don't have any kind of special government knowledge or anything like that. I'm not a person that knows, but it's just educated guesses. And I think your work is great. And I just want to say that if you can make sure that all the people in Iran end up knowing that they get impatient, I understand that. The thing about people is we're humans, and they're sitting there suffering, dying. They have a cousin or a brother who died somewhere, and it sucks. And they have no way to understand any kind of information that's coming in. So they end up getting frustrated. This is something that everybody should understand. But there's no such thing as, like that guy in your chat room said the other day, there's no such thing as Star Trek teleporting people down to make instant change happen. Anyway, I just wanted to drop a comment on there and hear what you have to say about it, and then maybe answer one or two questions from you back, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I mean, the only person that I think that could tell the Iranian people to be patient is their leader, Princess of Pahlavi. I'm sitting in a safe area, and I'm not doing as much as what Iranians are doing inside Iran. And I don't think I'm in a position to tell somebody who just watched some of their loved ones in their family die
I get
to
it.
be patient.
I get it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do. Yeah, yeah, but let me respond.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about what you did. I'm not talking about what you did. I'm talking about what I'm not gonna do. Right? I think like that message will is already received and is well received from Princess of Pahlavi, and I think he's in the position to send the Iranian people that message, and he's already doing that. And I don't think we do need to tell them to be patient. The Iranian people are. It's not like the Iranian people are going to give up on the revolution, anyways. The Iranian people are going to continue to do the fight, even if no help arrives. So even if United States doesn't provide help, even if Israel doesn't provide help, the regime is going to fall, and the Islamic Republic and the Iranian people are going to continue to fight. They don't require that advice unless it's coming, I think, from either Trump or the leader. I think our pressure should be focusing on United States and Israel, because we don't need to tell Iranian people what to do. The Iranian people have proven themselves. The Iranian people have demonstrated that they have done everything that is necessary. So it's the world's turn to prove itself. The Iranian people have proven themselves. The Iranian people have gone above and beyond what anybody expected. I'm not criticizing what you're saying. I really do appreciate your support. I just think that our energy would be more helpful focusing on pressuring the world to now do their part, because the Iranian people have done their part and they're continuing to do.
In my opinion, what you just said was perfectly right, but it has to be a dual fork pressure point. All of the internal pressure must be maintained. If you historically study how any kind of revolution ever happens, it doesn't matter the nature of the revolution, it must be amplified inside on a certain schedule, and it actually has to work and topple over that thing. The great thing about what's going to happen, I think, right, according to most military analysts, is that once the carriers are in place, Trump is pretty much obligated and committed now. And so the strikes are going to happen. That takes out the IRGC leadership. This is my thinking. Everybody could be wrong, wishful thinking, maybe, sure. But and once that happens, the people have to finish the job because good and well, there's not going to be 10,000 Marines landing on the beach. So it's going to have to be a one-wave action by the U.S. to act as the Iranian Liberation Force, and then the people finish the job. And I posted a schedule of these items in your school forums. And I edited it myself. Take a look. Just again, I'm not a government official or anything like that. I'm just saying this is my analysis. But all I'm saying is that things have to be coordinated. And
right, but let me tell you, things are like the Iranian people on the ground. This is the wisdom of the crowd is doing its thing. They have access to real-time information. They're doing trial and error, and they're evolving in a way faster than us being able to give them advice. And usually we realize what the best solution to every problem is after the Iranian people have already used the best method. So we are actually learning from them rather than lecturing them, because they are in the field. And there's a lot of the things that we don't see, a lot of the limitations, a lot of the obstacles, they're experiencing it in real time. And they're basically working with a feedback loop based on the information that they're receiving on the ground and the abilities and the limitations that they have, in a way that us basically telling them what works and what doesn't will be so slow compared to what they're working with. Does that make sense?
Armin, yes, it does make sense. However, I want to contradict you just a second to say that my general statements from a philosophic background is that all these things remain true, generally speaking. And I want you to review that list that I posted for you, because those are the general structures about how these things get won. And what I'm saying is not that we're bossing around people on the ground who are suffering. Everybody knows that you, me, everybody who is sympathetic
let me tell you let me
Okay.
tell you something. Okay, there are some
All right.
really intelligent people working on this with Prince Reza Pahlavi. He has a really good team, right?
I know.
And they are working on this, and the Iranian people are waiting to hear what he has to say. So the best thing that the Iranian people need to hear at any time, you're going to hear that coming out of the messaging platforms of Princess of Pahlavi exactly when they're needed the most. And that's what the Iranian people are waiting to hear. And that's who they're listening to right now.
I agree.
They don't
And
trust
we
anyone
keep
else. They don't trust
right.
me. They don't trust you. They don't trust anyone else. The only person they trust is Princess of Pahlavi. And we're so lucky that Princess of Pahlavi comes with the exact
I
message
fully
that they need
agree.
to hear at the
I
exact right time.
100% he's the guy. I fully 100% he's the guy. He's the only one that makes sense for the Iranian people, for the best of their future and the West in general and
Right.
the whole world, really. And I'm totally in line with that. I'm just trying to map out the future a little bit, right? And the global demonstrations in various cities all across 60 countries now, they keep flying Western flags along with the lion flag. It has to keep going.
So let's put your main point here, and then if you have any questions, just ask your questions. So what is the main point you wanted to make with this?
Oh, I just want you to keep going. Big
Thank
fan.
Thank
But
you.
I want to look a little deeper. If you talk in your type chat forums a little more and discuss some more there about how deep the thought needs to go. The cheerleading is
Okay.
great, fantastic. That's essential for any kind of revolution, because I believe that we're moving into.
I think the point is clear. We have a very very strong two two words sentence that we use. We learned it from Goldie. We call it bepish. Bepish means go on,
Right.
move forward. So yeah,
Yes.
we got you.
Right. And I'll shut up after like 5 seconds. I'll just say, yeah. You don't have to look all the way forward to what's the end of the solution, because I've heard you talk about that before. Don't get the cart before the horse. You got to win first, and that doesn't mean you compromise with communists and whatever.
What's the main point? What's
All
the
right.
main point?
I think we
Okay.
got the main point.
All right. Sorry. You
No.
just keep going. Look deep into how to escalate the opposition and pressure on the regime further. That's it. Keep the pressure on. You got to keep the pressure on. That's my point.
I'm
Bepish.
sure that's exactly what we're doing. But thank you. All right. So let's continue.
All right, so we had Ari Yerushalmi. Ari?
Hello.
No.
So, a long-time viewer and listener, first-time caller. I'm from Israel, and in recent days, in my feeds in social media in Israel, it seems that there's a lot of talk about how Trump isn't holding his part of the deal, and there's a lot of anger towards Trump, and a lot of talk about how it's already too late and help should have already came, and now it's too late for some reason. I never understand why. And there's one point that I don't really hear people talking about, which is really bugging me. And that's what about Europe? I mean, what is Europe discounted because it's so weak? Are you just is that the reason that you're ignoring it? Because I think that some kind of diplomatic pressure from Europe, some kind of diplomatic or economic pressure from Europe could help. If the UK would go ahead and prescribe the RDC, I think that could help. I mean, it's baffling to me that they haven't done so, and it's weird to me that all the pressure is on Trump, and nobody's talking about the Europeans at all. And the Europeans are right now they're talking about Greenland and all kinds of weird stuff, and they're absent from the Iran thing, and it's driving me crazy. So that's pretty much my question. Is anybody on that? Is there
Yes.
or is it just? Oh, okay.
All right. So regarding the, I'm hearing some echo, guys. If
Yeah,
you're not speaking, close your
Ari,
mic.
can you mute
Yeah,
your?
I'm gonna mute myself.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, thank you. So with regards to Trump, why is he already not there and it's too late? I think that's wrong. Based on the information we have, it seemed like it was actually a good thing that they waited, because the attack that they were going to be doing, according to the Israeli assessment, was going to be not enough, right? So Trump was about to attack a couple of days ago, when all the signs showed that he was about to attack. Apparently, it was Israel that was influential when it comes to stopping the attack, because for two reasons. First of all, the attack was been not very impactful. It wasn't at the scale necessary to actually make much of a difference. Two, Israel was defenseless because of a lot of U.S. Airstrike carriers were not in the region. And remember, like during the 12-day war, at the close to the end, a lot of the missiles that were being stopped was with the help of Americans. So if this war starts again, given that there's no aircraft carriers close by, it would have been really difficult for Israel to be able to help out, given that there was not that much defense there, right? So given that it seemed like they're going for something a lot more significant, it makes sense why it's taking longer. I mean, the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier and the whole entire group is still on the way. And we got report that they shut down, they went dark. So USS Abraham Lincoln has now turned off its AIS tracking system as it's getting closer to Iranian territory. So that's a big news as well. It shows something significant is happening. So everybody is waiting to see what happens when it arrives. Also, another carrier is going closer. It was getting closer from the Mediterranean side. And there's a whole bunch of other activities, like there's a floating hospital apparently that is coming by, and that seems to be one of the best indicators that something is about to happen. Like it seems like some people say that this never fails. So yeah, and I mean, for people saying it's too late, it's not too late because the Iranian people are ready to go back into the streets. They're just waiting for the next opportunity, right? So it's not too late. And it's not too late because, I mean, it's too late for the people who died. Like if the attack happened earlier, we could have avoided so many thousands of people dying. So for that, it might be too late, but it's not too late when it comes to actually being sex. It's never too late because one way or another, the Islamic Republic is over. In that sense, it's not too late. When it comes to European, I think the Iranians are focusing most of their attention on United States because Europe has a really bad record when it comes to the Islamic Republic. They have always had the policy of appeasement. They have always been working with the Islamic Republic. They haven't even yet to this point they haven't registered the IRGC as a terrorist group. Not even till today. The fact that they still have their embassies open is shameful. Still, after all these mass killings, the European countries still have their embassies open. I did see a video that the European Parliament, some people came out, and some of the members in the European Parliament, some of their more right-leaning ones, came out and announced that they want to recognize Princess Pahlavi. So I've
Probably
heard
the
that's
base
Goldie.
Polish guy, right? The
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Karczynski.
We'll see. We'll see. I'll play it once I go back to Goldie. So I'm hearing myself, by the way. There's echo. Right. There is some pressure on Europe right now when it comes to, I mean, they just managed to, the Iranian people managed to, I don't know if you know, but in Davos, the economic forum in Davos, Arakchi was invited there, right? But the Iranian people managed to, like, even after all of these killings, they still had invited him to come speak there. But then after a lot of pressure, they managed to actually remove his invitation. But there is right now a lot of pressure on Europeans by Iranians to at least finally recognize IRGC after all of this as a terrorist group. So there's that. So there is some pressure on Europe and European countries, but justifiably the main focus is on the United States because there's more likelihood of actually a meaningful thing happening from the United States. So it makes sense for a higher focus on that.
Thanks. What can I say? Javid Shah, Bepish.
Javid Shah, Amazral Chai.
All right, you here?
Do you guys hear me today?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. So, a couple of lives ago, I forgot kind of one of my main points, and I saw commented under the video related to that, and it pertains to what to do with the Ayatollah afterwards. And what Armin answered there was, if the Ayatollah is taken alive, it's a trial and life sentence and trial and execution. And what many people tend to be a little bit confused of is that they tend to view law as very rigid. So if the Shah, for example, arrives and they implement so-and-so punishments, then that's going to be marking how the new government is going to be acting. I want to use Norway as an example to show that's not really the case. So after World War II, when our king returned from exile, we had abolished the death penalty before the occupiers, and we did not want to regress our judicial system because of them. However, the collaborators still had to be punished. So what the Norwegian parliament used to do was legislate that the traitors and collaborators of this occupation were to be executed, and explicitly in that law, once the traitors have been resolved, it will be abrogated. So how this is relevant, for example, is if you look at later with the Anders Behring Breivik being the biggest terrorist attack in the 21st century in Norway. Now, that could easily, like if the law had not been abrogated back then, that could easily have resulted in him being classified as a traitor and subsequently taken for capital punishment. Now, whether that will be the right thing or wrong thing to do is a different matter altogether. But for those who kind of don't want Iran to be, like, who might be having qualms with Iran perhaps permitting executions, I just want to, Norway is not a unique example. Romania had the same thing too, where they made it temporarily. And it's sort of like, yes, we will execute these people, and then we will stop, because we are not like that. For those who might be thinking like it's like if you first do it then it's done, I just want to show like no, it's absolutely not the case.
When it comes to executions and what punishments we're going to have, and if capital punishment is going to be a thing or not, that is not going to be at all decided by Princess of Pahlavi or the Shah, right? So the way that works is, first of all, during the transition period, we're just going to keep these people arrested, and we're going to punish them after we actually have laws so that we could punish them based on the laws that we have, right? And the laws are going to be decided through a democratic process, meaning that first we're going to have a referendum to figure out if we're going to be a constitutional monarchy or not. Then we're going to have vote for the council of the founders so that they could write the constitution. And then we're going to be having elections to choose our member of parliament and our prime minister. And then based on the laws that we have in our constitution and the laws that are being passed by our parliament, then we're going to see if capital punishment is on the books or not. At that point, we'll see about that. It might make sense to have some, just to make sure that we don't have chaos. Some people are executed and just make them the last symbolic executions of our history. Have that. I actually thought about it, and I think I do prefer now. I didn't used to prefer this. I wish we captured Khamenei alive so that we could punish himself. But I do see now that if he dies, then we don't have to. We're not going to have infighting among ourselves over what to do with him. So it might be a good idea if he just dies in battle, so that we don't have to fight among each other on what to do with him.
The reason you may want to keep him alive for the trial is because that will uncover, like it gains legitimacy for the new government because it will showcase through the trial all the atrocities that the Ayatollah did and so forth. So, I mean, we want to get the uprising to end quick as possible, but if you can get him alive and send him through trial, what you choose to do, I think that process will be like, yeah.
There's cons and benefits to all sides. We don't have control over that, whether he dies in war or not.
Yeah.
Our main priority right now is to just get over this nightmare.
You could theoretically put a dead guy on trial.
Personally, I wouldn't care if he would sleep on a banana and bang his head tomorrow and die, but yeah, let's just watch and see.
I just said
We're
you
getting
could
back
theoretically put a dead guy on trial, even if he dies.
All right.
Okay, go on, Yula.
Okay, so I wanted to address what I think it was Shia who talked about how Israelis are not necessarily very aware of what's happening. So from my experience, I feel like we have news fatigue, right, over everything that's happened over the past few years since the corona and October 7th and everything that's happened since then. What I do is that I constantly just have the conversations. I know that I don't always have the platforms, but I have the conversations with my friends, with my family, with yesterday I talked to a cab driver and I told him everything that he needed to do and all of that. I feel like there's a lot of interest in it and a lot of hope. I also send a lot of videos and it changes the whole perspective. I wanted to tell Armin that last week, just before I had the dental surgery, I had the lecture that I told you about with the senior citizens. It went amazingly. Some of them were of Irani background, some of them were actually Iranis, and one even served under the Shah. I ended the lecture with the original anthem of Iran, and he stood up and he started singing, and he had tears in his eyes. It was kind of
Wow.
awesome. You might have some new followers on your Persians channel from Israel now. They're
Thank
all
you.
over 67, but you gave them hope, and that's amazing. Thank
If
Oh,
I may, we can organize and do more. Maybe a demonstration, something we need to do. Just not just talk to cab drivers and our, uncle.
Of course.
he did a whole
I mean,
lecture. I
should
appreciate that,
actually
Ila.
do
Thank
that.
you so much.
Also
Appreciate that. I really
waiting
do
for my
appreciate.
son-in-law and
Guys,
play
don't
around.
discourage if somebody's doing something. Don't discourage them. But go on.
No, what you did is
So,
amazing. Thank you.
so
We just
I'm
need to do
waiting
more.
for it,
I
and
want
I
to do more.
hope that I'll have it in time for the demonstration in Holon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you both. I really appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you. Does anybody need me? Like, because I just want to say if anybody has a question for me, like any from the people that okay, Richard. Only Richard. Okay. So let's just
Oh,
go with Richard and
one person did mention before you came in that they had a question for you off camera if you have a second before you go.
okay, so let's do this with Richard and then I'll stop recording and then we go to that person. To me?
It's a small thing. Just wanted to let you know that in Israel, it's a very known fact that if you meet an Iranian in the room, he will be the smartest person on the room. So just keep calm and keep going.
Oh.
Probably true.
Well, that's, I don't know. That's a hard it's hard to compete with Jews over that, but okay, I'll take it. Okay,
But
Richard.
they're Iranian Jews.
All right,
Yeah.
Richard.
Okay.
So yeah, Armin, I have to apologize. It's technically not a question. It's more of a statement, and it's completely off topic, but I still thought you'd want to know. In about a month in early March, we have a major Jewish holiday coming up. It's called Purim. And actually, just to sort of emphasize the relationship between our peoples, it is a holiday due to events that occurred in the Persian Empire in a city called Shushan around the 3rd century. Basically revolves around the rule of Xerxes, that we translate it as Ahasuerus, who basically discovered that his wife, Queen Esther, was Jewish, and she uncovered a plot by a grand vizier named Haman to exterminate all the Jews in Persia, which at the time were really all the Jews in the world. This was after the Babylonian exile, but before we were sent back to build the second temple in Israel. So basically, the holiday is, a celebration to avoiding extinction. And Queen Esther's tomb is located. It's actually in Hamadan, not too far from Shushan, historically.